Hello and welcome to People and Profit. I'm Charles Pellegrin. Coming up this week, a brand new luxury hotel under construction in the heart of Baghdad, financed by Qatar. We'll understand why the diplomatic rapprochement between Saudi Arabia and Iran is leading to a new kind of investment in Iraq. We'll head to southern China, where young sales professionals are going back to school to learn how to use TikTok to better target foreign markets. The Taylor Swift phenomenon sweeps through France, but will the boost in economic activity we saw in the US, Australia, and Singapore follow? We'll discuss this with a former music business executive. Well, first off, a case study in how geopolitical shifts can lead to economic opportunities. More than a year after Saudi Arabia and Iran agreed to restore diplomatic ties, the implications of that thaw in tensions can be felt beyond these two countries. For instance, in Iraq, which has seen a surge in investments from Gulf states, which had previously avoided the country because of its links to Tehran. Well, Charlie James has a story.
Here in Baghdad's Green Zone, a glitzy Qatar-financed hotel is taking shape. This heavily fortified diplomatic district will be home to the Rixos Baghdad, where Iraq's government hopes to host Gulf Arab monarchs for next year's Arab League summit. 2 decades after the fall of Saddam Hussein, Iraq is for the first time attracting investments from Gulf Arab countries, including $3 billion each from Saudi Arabia and the UAE, and $7 billion from Qatari companies.
Iraqi Gulf relations are in their best phase now, after most countries embrace the idea of the economy as a basis for the relationship. This is what makes the path completely different from what it was before.
Gulf nations have had a complicated relationship with Iraq. Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait in 1990, sparking the first Gulf War and demolishing relations with Gulf states. Iran stepped in to fill the void, forging political and economic ties and funding militant groups operating in the country. Gulf Arab states are geopolitical rivals with Iran and do not like its relationship with Iraq. But 1 year ago, Saudi Arabia and Iran agreed to renew diplomatic relations, and this helped open the door to investment.
When interests are intertwined between Iraq and regional countries, then certainly we are heading toward a state of stability that will be reflected in the region and create economic benefits for everyone.
By prioritizing its economy, Iraq's government seeks to reverse the damage caused by decades of war and instability, and regional countries see investment as a path to increased influence.
Well, TikTok's Chinese owners, ByteDance, face a race against time to divest from the social media platform or face a ban in the United States. It could have implications far beyond American shores, including in its home country, China. Though TikTok is not available there, Chinese companies use its e-commerce platform to sell to foreign markets. And business schools offer courses in how to best target customers. Oliver Ferry reports.
Chinese marketing students don hijabs and abayas. They aim selling the items to overseas customers on TikTok's e-commerce platform.
How about you change another color to show our friend?
They're taking a specially designed course at a Guangzhou marketing school. The students learn technical know-how and also tips on making pitches to target markets.
We teach people which products sell better and which markets are more suitable for where they're currently at.
One participant says he hopes that selling to markets in Southeast Asia will give the cosmetics company he works for an edge.
Information is part of the cost of business now, and if you don't have the information appropriate to the market, your costs will be way too high. The domestic market is saturated, but we still have a bit of an information gap to take advantage of the foreign market.
Though Chinese-owned, TikTok is not available in China, where its owner ByteDance markets a separate similar app called Douyin. To use TikTok to sell to foreign markets requires VPNs, officially illegal in China but openly used by businesses. A looming potential TikTok ban could spell trouble, but the course instructor thinks it won't overly affect Chinese influencers.
We just play the role of suppliers to the US market. I don't think we need to worry too much. American influencers should be more worried because they may lose their jobs.
With Chinese e-commerce groups such as Shein and Temu having successfully harnessed Western online platforms, the hope is there will be others that fill the gap if TikTok disappears.
And finally, Taylor Swift's Eras Tour is continuing its planetary takeover, kicking off its European leg this week in France. Since its first concerts in March 2023 in the US, the pop star's concerts have been credited with boosting the national GDPs of the United States, Singapore, and Australia. The pop phenomenon generating economic activity in the form of traveling fans, spending money on accommodation, food, drinks, and in the case of these Paris concerts, shopping sprees from wealthy US travelers coming to the City of Light. Well, for a deeper look at the business phenomenon that is Taylor Swift, let's speak now with Professor Linda Bloss-Baum. She's Assistant Director of the Business and Entertainment Program at American University's Kogod School of Business and also a former Sound Exchange executive. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Great to be here.
Well, to start with, does Taylor Swift hold as much weight in Europe as she does in the United States? She's often referred to as, Miss Americana. So can we expect this Paris leg of her tour to have as big an economic impact as we saw in the U.S.?
I think you really will see the economic impact in Europe that we've seen in the US and then also in Asia and Latin America before the Europe tour began this year. Obviously, the Europe tour is at the heels of these other continents that she has taken by storm. So I think we should fully expect that she will have the same type of impact in Europe this spring and summer.
There's a lot of talk about how this tour is boosting the GDP of the countries that are on it in the short term. But are there any benefits in terms of long-term growth as opposed to just, immediate consumption of hotels, food, that kind of thing when the concerts happen?
I think that it really will have a long-term effect beyond just the hotels and food and merchandise this summer. The long-term effect will pretty much be the change of thinking around touring in general. So these experiences are brand new, to the concert goers' existence after COVID. I really think that travel has changed, and especially young people today, which really comprise the bulk of Taylor's audience, really want to have experiences instead of just consumption of products. So you can see kind of the way that many of the hospitality companies are marketing not only this tour, but other tours where they're, offering, hotel rooms for points or concert tickets for points. It's the experience that people are looking for. And I do think that is here to stay, not only for bigger artists, but, people are really looking to spend their disposable income enjoying life, particularly post-pandemic when they couldn't go out and hear music for a very long time. Now that those opportunities are available to them, I think we will see many more tours of this size and scope that will be able to affect local economies beyond just the weekend that the show is there.
And the gateway to those experiences for consumers is obviously the ticket. And the ticket sales, they've come under fire in France as well as in other countries because of the Ticketmaster platform being on almost a position of monopoly and unable to handle all that demand and falling prey to scalpers as well. What does that tell us about the ticketing industry?
The ticketing industry is really something that all governments are looking carefully at. We certainly are looking at that very carefully here in the United States. And I will say, I think Taylor Swift has really been at the forefront of trying to quell a lot of those problems in the ticketing industry, setting up kind of advanced registration to have an opportunity to buy tickets in advance, taking on, the war on bots and scalpers. She's really at the forefront and has led the way for some of the government oversight agencies and here in the States, the legislation that is looking at a lot of those problems with ticketing.
I'm going to go back to the Taylor Swift experience, if you can call it that. Is it actually a luxury experience? From a business standpoint, is that how we should actually view this Eras tour? I'm saying this because there's been a lot of reporting around this European leg of the tour about how it's attracting wealthy U.S. fans who are traveling to Europe and making it a whole trip out of it with shopping sprees and all that. Is that how we should look at Taylor Swift as a product, if we can, as a luxury product?
I absolutely think we should look at Taylor Swift as a luxury product. The average attendee of a Taylor Swift concert spends $1,279 US. So if you think about the merchandise and the hotels and the food and the outfits that they put together to get to the concert, it is really, quite a big expenditure over the course of the whole time that they are there. It should be available to everyone. Obviously, you don't have to stay in a fancy hotel room or buy a fancy outfit, but most attendees do choose to do that. And the thought of U.S. citizens coming over to Europe to see the show, a lot of that gets back to the ticketing thing that you had mentioned earlier. The tickets in Europe have been a little less expensive than they've gotten to be here in the States. And so people in the States have decided, let's just add on the price of a plane ticket and make a weekend of it or make a European adventure of it. Again, getting back to that experience, it's a once in a lifetime experience for a lot of people, and they want to do it right. So they're going to put as much of their disposable income into this as they can.
And are we seeing any evidence that Taylor Swift is, in a way, spreading the wealth or sharing her success with the rest of the live music industry?
As rest of the live music industry, very much so. I think that, like I said, she's paving the way for the idea of these experiences. So I think that others are able to follow in her footsteps. She's certainly sharing the wealth with her team. She has given very generous bonuses. That last summer, there was some great press about she gave each one of her truck drivers a very generous bonus. In addition to the rest of her team, she recognizes that she is not doing this show by herself, and she's really taking the time and effort to show her appreciation to all of those that are making it possible.
Mm-hmm. I just want to finish on one sort of the biggest question here. What has transformed Taylor Swift into this global icon, in your opinion?
You know, it's interesting. I work with students obviously a lot at the university. I have two children of my own that have both been to Taylor's shows in different cities here in the United States. She really speaks to this generation genuinely. I mean, if you just go on TikTok or Instagram and see the reactions of these fans as they're at these live concerts, it's really a remarkable phenomenon that I've never seen in the music industry, in the history of the music industry. Maybe the Beatles back in the early days, but it is just this icon for this entire generation that views her as their queen, as their person, and they want to experience that in person and will travel across an ocean to get there if they have to.
Professor Linda Bloss-Baum is the Assistant Director of the Business and Entertainment Program at American University's Kogod School of Business, and also a former music business executive. Thank you so much for being with us on People and Profit.
Thank you.
Well, that's all for this week. If you want to watch any of our previous editions, feel free to look up People and Profit on the France 24 website or on the podcast platform of your choice. If you have any questions or comments, you can always reach out to us on social media. In the meantime, thanks for watching and stay tuned.